What is up, everybody? Welcome to a late night, logical, plausible, probable after show live stream, open mic night discussion. I'm hoping that I figured out what was wrong with my microphone from earlier. Please let me know if the audio is coming through better. If it's not, then this freaking less than a month old microphone has got a problem. So I need to figure out if it's sounding muffled, or anybody that was listen to the stream earlier, please let me know if you're seeing a very stark difference in the audio quality. I think this thing has like multiple settings of like omnidirectional, one directional, like side to side, and I think it had gotten bumped over to a different setting. So trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Hearing a popping sound? Okay, man, what the heck is going on here? What is happening with this microphone? All right, well, I'm going to get into it because I did not have a problem with my old one. All right, well, anybody wants to join, come on in. The link is pinned right now in a conversation. Here we'll discuss some of the stuff from earlier and just random stuff that's going on. Have a good time on a Sunday night and just have some conversation. In the interim to that, people joining, I actually missed this earlier, so I'm going to do a quick perusal of Dr. Tour's latest video. I think this is just a summary of where he's at, like halfway through his streams or his lectures on abiogenesis. So I figured, well, it's a pretty short video, and no, standing, I am not making popcorn. I don't know where this popping sound is coming from. Anyway, I am going to press play on this, see if I can figure out what the heck's going on with popping sound, and then people join in the stream.
We're going to just take a little bit of a break here and just think about recapping some of what we've covered already in this series of videos on the origin of life. Let me again say the reasons for doing this, because Dave Farina posted a video entitled Elucidating the Agenda of James Tour, a defense of abiogenesis. You can see in the description box below for the link. After watching that video, I was confused about almost every slide and statement that Dave Farina presented. I think every slide in his talk was wrong. And everything that he said in this talk were wrong, I think. There were numerous gross scientific inaccuracies and claims. Since others might be likewise confused, I'm going to use that video with timestamps as the launch point, and that's what I've done. And I think Dave's doing a great job. Well, I don't know if he's doing a great job because I've never looked at any of his other videos, but I assume he's okay. But on this one, it was all wrong. So I appreciate his trying to teach the layperson about science, and that's great. And I have no contest with Dave. This is not something where I'm picking on Dave. I'm just trying to bring clarity to this field of origin of life.
Oh, crap. I hate when I do that. Okay, so let me know if the popping is still coming through. I've tried to, like, reconnect some stuff. What's kind of funny about what Dr. Tour just said there is, up until this point, he has always made a comment like, well, I really appreciate what Dave is doing, educating people on the basics of chemistry, and it's a good thing, etc., etc. And in this one, he's like, well, I haven't actually looked, so I don't know how good it is after all. It makes you kind of wonder, like, I wonder if he's starting to be like, this guy is such a clown show. I don't know how. Yeah, I think this professor hat's probably kicking a little bit. Like, I don't even know what this guy is teaching people. Got to might need to call that into question. That's just a thought. So let's get this going again.
The reasons for doing this, because Dave Farina posted a video entitled Elucidating the Agenda of James Tour, a defense of abiogenesis. You can see in the description box below for the link. after watching that video, I was confused about almost every slide and statement that Dave Farina presented. I think every slide in his talk was wrong. And everything that he said in this talk were wrong, I think. There were numerous gross scientific inaccuracies and claims. Since others might be likewise confused, I'm going to use that video with timestamps as a launch point, and that's what I've done. And I think Dave's doing a great job. Well, I don't know if he's doing a great job because I've never looked at any of his other videos, but I assume he's okay. But on this one, it was all wrong. So I appreciate his trying to teach the layperson about science, and that's great. And I have no contest with Dave. This is not something where I'm picking on Dave. I'm just trying to bring clarity to this field of origin of life. And I really invite criticism on this, especially from my synthetic chemist colleagues. If I'm saying something wrong, you got to point this out to me. I'm sure I twisted up little terms here and there, nucleotide versus nucleoside and things like this. You can point that out, but the things I really want pointed out are if I have the chemistry wrong, if I've said something about chemistry that's wrong, point it out. Let me know. And if I'm right, if I'm right on origin of life things, let me know. If you think that as synthetic chemist that you're agreeing with me, let me know. We'll form a group. Remember what happens. Just because a person speaks with a lot of confidence, it doesn't mean that they really know it. Remember the Dunning-Kruger effect that we had discussed? That this was something that was published by Dunning and Kruger. People can sometimes speak really confidently when they know next to nothing about a topic. And you think, wow, they speak so confidently, they must really know. Well, not necessarily. They don't necessarily know a whole lot of things. It's just that they haven't learned all the problems with what they're saying yet. And then at some point, as they get more knowledge, then their confidence level will go down because they say, wow, there's a lot more to it than I thought. And I really hope that those that thought along with what was on that video would come to this point. Kruger and Dunning put this here. I cross this out because I don't think anybody here is stupid. That's not a question of stupidity. It's just a lack of knowledge. And I think that there's just a lack of knowledge that people presume with great confidence. They have very high confidence. But I think that people can come down in here and learn along with us. I'll continue to put out videos, and you can see the publications that are there, and hopefully people can come along and see what's known about origin of life and what's not known.
All right, guys. Let me know if how the audio is coming through, if it's still popping or not. So yeah, I mean the conversation that he's having and just being so very direct, I think is an excellent approach to take to this whole conversation. I mean, like, hey, my peers, my fellow synthetic chemists, who are my equal and actually understand what the points that I'm making are just glossing over with standards. Standard talking points. And lo and behold, like we got the one and only Iron Charioteer coming in with his standard, idiotic, uninformed, YouTube atheist talking point. James Tour is a materials scientist, not a biochemist. So obviously you haven't been actually watching the videos because if you had, then you would know that because Dr. Tour actually talked about it in one of his previous streams about some biochemistry projects he's worked on in his career. So Dr. Tour kind of knows what he's talking about in this stuff because he's actually done it in literal projects that were funded. I mean, he's discussed it. So if you want to claim that he's not a biochemist or doesn't understand biochemistry, then maybe you should go back and talk to the people who funded multiple research projects he's been involved in. What's up, Jason?
I've got a link. To his credentials. I'll just post that in the chat. They can go and look at that link. Their eyes will pop out of their head. He's classed not by himself as one of the top 50 scientists on Earth by other scientists, Evo scientists, mind you.
Yeah, it really is it's getting rather irritating, to be honest, to listen to these, I mean, just talking point spewing clown shows who, like, he'll go and, I mean, he goes, Dr. Tour in his streams, this last couple, he's gone into so much detail and just been like, kind of, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's been doing like straight up mic drop moments and just being like, I literally dare you to debunk me. I mean, Oh, okay, cool. Let's go look at this glass bead here. Okay, awesome. You have to put the shields on, then you have to take the shields off, then you have to heat it, and then move it over here, and then put the shields back on, and then take the shields off, and then flush out the bad stuff, and then put the shield back on. Oh wait, move it over here in the shield, and then you can take the shields off, and then you get. Oh wait, and that's one step. So you have to manually move it up, down, left, right, in a protected state. Otherwise, everything you're doing doesn't occur. So
and you have to chuck it in a glass quartz tube once you've got a lot of these molecules made up, done. You have to seal them off in a quartz tube in something cyanide to preserve them. Otherwise, they decay. Where was the glass, the quartz tube out in nature again?
Well, and now we've got look at Iron Charioteers continue to talk trash. Tours of a biochemist gets Sygard on. Well, I've actually had a conversation with Sygard, and Sygard, in terms of abiogenesis, agrees with James Tour. So, Iron Charioteer, do you actually even know what you're talking about? I'm guessing no, because the guy you're saying needs to come on to debunk Dr. Tour agrees with the majority of the positions he's taking. So, I'm not really sure what you're trying to state is, but usual uninformed atheist stupidity on full display. Nightmare, I don't have a headset. I've got a brand new Yeti microphone. Like, I'm not understanding why it's doing this. It's very, very bizarre.
I invite critique by synthetic chemists. What have I said in this lecture series that's inaccurate based upon the published literature? One cannot have a series of lectures and be correct on every point. I concede in some cases I will say or write silly misstatements or incorrect structures that can be pointed out. In other cases, I might severely misinterpret and misrepresent the known data. That will be unintentional, and I beg your forgiveness. I welcome your correction so that I can learn. If you can also share with me the scientific reference when correcting me, that would be most appreciated. So far, what we've covered is reasons why I'm doing this video. I described what abiogenesis is, how it differs from evolution. We talked about the primordial soup and how what's the layperson's understanding. The primordial soup is not something that's just pushed to sixth graders. There are people in high schools that are getting this, and I presume in colleges as well, because many adults are mixed up by this. And that's what we saw. What's the layperson's understanding? And their understanding on this is very little. So they've not got a whole lot of knowledge on this. There's a lot of hype from origin of life researchers themselves, and in their articles, there's a lot of hype on this, and it's from the researchers themselves, not just from the press. The press is going to always ramp things up, but when we have a chance to review it and to check it, that's best, and we've got to keep these claims from going crazy. We first talked about homochirality. What does homochirality mean? Why is that an issue? We talked about what chirality means. We talked about carbohydrates, how they're made, and the complexity of carbohydrates, the ability to store lots of information in carbohydrate just by the way that they're assembled. We talked about the building blocks of building blocks, how in origin of life, we don't just have trouble making the building blocks of life. We have trouble making the building blocks of the building blocks. We talked about peptides and how those are synthesized and how it's not trivial at all. Nucleotides and how that's not trivial. And then we're talking now in this intermediate summary, just summarizing where we've been. And then we have just a few more topics to go in this series. So let me turn now from speaking about those who believe like was in that video. I'm going to turn now to the talented Sutherland, Krishnamurthy, Devaraj, Pauner, Reichert, and other synthetic chemists. And I think that they would likely cringe to think that such gross misunderstandings as in the cited video are being promoted by some to explain life's origin. Such conjectures are not merely over-trivialized. They are consistently wrong. And it's misleading the layperson. It would be helpful if these kingpins in the origin of life community would bring some clarity to what is really known about the prebiotic chemistry as it relates to life's origin. And I'm speaking to my chemist colleagues. Watch that video and tell me, is that what you want people to think is the state of the field of prebiotic systems, abiogenesis? Do you really want them to continue to think that? That we're on the verge of doing this. These are all trivial things to make. Do you really want them to think that? I doubt it. The public is misled on this. Let's bring some correction to this. When we speak to the press, let's recalibrate the press on this thing. You guys got to join me and speak up with me, because there's misleading things going on here. Maybe when we address the next, and we'll learn about this final class of compounds. We started with the hardest, which were carbohydrates, because of all their stereogenic centers, and then we went to peptides. Then we went to nucleotides, which each one of them bears a 5-carbon sugar on that. One of them deoxy, but again, there's several stereocenters on that. And now we're going to move into the lipids. lipids are the simplest of the requirements, the 4 classes of prebiotic compounds needed for life. Lipids are the simplest. Maybe when we address lipids, Origin of Life researchers will have made those simplest of building blocks in their homochiral forms using prebiotic relevant chemistry. Maybe they will. Maybe not. I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for joining us. If you want to subscribe, you just click right here, subscribe.
Another awesome video from Dr. Tour. Okay, so I have switched over to an old.
Oh.
How's the audio sounding now?
It's a little bit crackly, but we can still understand you perfectly, so it's not a problem.
It's still crackling. What the heck is going on with the crackling?
I'll tell you what it is, man. I was watching a Donald Trump live feed, right? And the whole team Donald Trump was there, Team Trump was there, and hackers actually hacked the live feed, and they were talking over Donald Trump and his team while they were speaking live, and they were like doing all sorts of weird stuff with the graphics and sound. They drop the sound, make it all crackly, all sorts of things. So that could be hackers. Could be. I'm not saying it is, but it could be.
Man, I've got to figure out what is going on with this audio. This is absolutely making no sense. I put things on mute and it's still popping. Okay, I'm going back on mute. Tell me if you guys in the chat, after I say I'm going on mute, tell me if
I didn't hear it on mute.
If you're hearing popping again. But the people in the audience keep saying they're hearing popping. I'm just not understanding. I'm not.
Okay. All right.
I've switched over to a old headset. I'm not really sure where the hell this popping is coming from. Like I've gone from a brand new Yeti mic with a pop filter, and then now I've switched over to an old headset, and I'm trying to figure out what.
Probably being hacked or some nasty crap like that, and maybe it's just a glitch that you'll work out. You know how these things are. Sometimes you'll work it out and you go, oh, that's what it was. It wasn't hacking at all, but it might be too. And I didn't hear it. I don't hear any popping now that you're not talking. It's quiet as.
I put myself on mute, so I was trying to figure out if like there's a popping that's still occurring even when I'm on mute. Like where is this audio popping coming from? I mean, I've got a direct USB mic.
Yeah, similar thing happened to Trump, man. This is a similar sort of stuff that started off with him. Except that I can't believe they actually spoke with their own voices. Or maybe they were using a deep fake technology or something. But yeah, they were speaking. Idiots. Anyway, imagine if they got caught doing that. They'd be going to prison for a long time, man. Big penalties for hacking in there in the States. And James Tour, he's got 175 patents. He's started 9 or 15 companies or something. He's put out over 100,000 citations. And he doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, and he's voted by other scientists. He's voted one of the top 50 in the world scientists. Well, yeah, if they can turn around and make claims like that about James Tour, then they're complete idiots. They're completely demented. There's nothing that's going to help them. They're only out to destroy God's word and destroy Christianity. They're just God haters. You think someone would be happy if someone showed like James Tour and they sat down? You think they'd sit down and watch intently and try to work it out and try to actually debunk him with science? And if they can't, you think that they'd be happy. You think that they'd go, hang on a second, when I die, that's not the end of everything. When I die, I'm going to go to a place that I feel so much pleasure for, every second, more pleasure every second in heaven than I feel on earth with all the drugs and pleasure I've had all put together on earth in heaven. You feel pleasure, constant pleasure, and satisfied. You don't feel hungry. You don't feel sick. You don't need anything. You don't get tired. Like, you can rest, and it's a beautiful, You think that they'd be happy about that, but no, I don't understand it. Anyway.
Yeah,
don't get it.
it's very very bizarre, very bizarre.
We can still understand you, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that popping. It's not affecting where we can't understand you.
Is it
don't worry about it.
Is it a background pop, or is it when I'm talking?
When you're talking, it's like static popping, like, but it's only very light. It's not like huge sound. If you had it up on big speakers in your house or something, it'd play hell with your ears. Big stereo speakers, massive big speakers. But no, if you just got headphones or listening to it on your phone, you're completely understandable. There's nothing. Every word I can understand it.
What if it's anything to do with
the
storm that? What if it's anything to do with the storm that's going on? That might be affecting the transmission.
Might be. But did you know that I was posting links on Matt's channel, and I posted a few docs, and what I was doing, I was just sitting there and I was scrolling, refreshing the comment section. You know, you swipe down, refresh it, and refresh it. Well, I'd refresh it 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, and within 30 seconds, within less than a minute, every single comment disappeared. Some within 30 seconds. So what they're doing is they're leaving the comment there long enough, so you think that the comment's posted, then you go, then the comment gets removed, and then they can block the replies from coming through to you, so you never get to see that your comment's gone. And that's what they've been doing, I've noticed, and I've got like multiple videos of that, and I've even got me posting AIG answers in Genesis links, and they're making them disappear within less than 30 seconds. And I believe that they have algorithms. I believe that their quantum computer is up and running, and I believe that it's only a theory, but I believe that they can target millions of different individuals at once. That's what I think. Differently, each one different. Target them differently with a quantum computer. Yeah, that's what I believe anyway.
It's possible. I don't think that their quantum computers are nearly as successful as they like to make them out to be, just with the problems they're having in relation to maintaining the coherent state. I mean, they're starting to make some progress, but it's not nearly as, oh, this is awesome. They're like making all these awesome new advancements in the tech. Like, you would think, given what we all know about technology now, computation, you would think they'd be able to make more, rapid advancements, but they're having some pretty serious problems. It's part of the reason. Part of the reason I crack up in relation to.
I think they have, but they're holding it back from us. I think they have.
Well,
because
I think no, hang on. They made some advancements. They were also admitting. I mean, there's a reason that a lot of these companies are actively making pivots over towards DNA computers. It's because they're running into major barriers with the traditional quantum computing logic. And yes, hypothetically, if they're able to expand the tech, hypothetically, it could do all sorts of crazy stuff. However, they're not getting there in terms of like maintaining. Everything about quantum computation requires maintaining the quantum coherence. Like, otherwise you don't have computation, and you have to do it as close to absolute zero as possible. So it's recognized. I mean, it wasn't until like 2010 that people even like scientists actually conceded the fact that there's quantum coherence, tunneling, all different things happening in biological systems, because they all claimed there was no way, shape, form, or fashion could possibly be happening at room temperature in a wet environment. And which is part of the reason they're now looking at, I wonder if DNA computation might actually be the more efficient way to go, because you don't have to maintain any of these crazy parameters, and you have the capacity to go down like all of these different computational paths, and it's kind of nuts in what's possible there. So I agree with you that the quantum computing technology it's very cool, but the actual real world application of it in relation to what is actually being rapidly advanced with DNA computers, it's not even in the same stratosphere.
Google claims that they've got the only working version of a quantum computer on Earth, and if anybody could do it, it would be them, because you got to remember they wiped $70 billion off their market share, and then a year or so later they wiped another $50 billion off their market share, and it didn't even touch them. You know what I mean? It's like, when you got that sort of money, man, money's no object. They could pay the best technicians on Earth to work 24/7 on that thing. I think they've got it. I think they've cracked it, because I've noticed that I've noticed things like I've noticed they're targeting different people in different ways. Unless they've got people like workers out there individually going around and watching, you know, that each person's got a certain amount of people they've got to watch, then I don't know how they're doing it, because it'd cost them, like, you know, they have to employ tens of thousands of people to do that sort of thing. So I think they might have. I'm not sure. And I think you're right. What you say, like nobody but mega billionaires, like hundreds of billions of dollars, billionaires could afford to maintain a quantum computer. You're absolutely right. They're completely ridiculous for the average person. It'll never happen. I mean, what are they going to do? You're going to have absolute zero tubes running through your house? I mean, what? What if a dog chews it? What if a baby walks, you know, they're teething and they chew on it? Anything could happen. I mean, okay, you could. I just don't think it's feasible. Like you said, I don't believe it's ridiculous.
Yeah, people like to talk a big game and, you know, act like a bunch of hypotheticals are going to somehow come into existence, but it's a lot of the stuff's not plausible. It's just like with the abiogenesis research, right? Like, and Dr. Tour's making the point in relation to, you know, in his hype uh, lecture of like, oh, cool, let's look at this headline, and oh, let's look at the, you know, the abstract of this paper, and then, oh wait, now let's go look at the actual substance. Oh, turns out they didn't even do anything remotely in the same, you know, standing of you know, what the claim was, or what the claim that you could infer from the headline. They didn't even come close, and in many cases didn't even do anything remotely similar to what they were claiming they did in the abstract, or uh, the reporter kind of makes it out to be. And I mean, it's the same thing in a lot of the tech stuff. I mean, there's cool things that are being done, but some of these revolutionary technologies, I mean, they're just not actually coming to fruition like they like to make us think they are.
If I was the government, I'd be just in case. I think you're right. It's probably like abiogenesis to get a quantum computer going and be like, you know, forming the first cell, maybe. But if I was the government, I'd be serving Google with warrants and going kicking their doors in and going and auditing. Because let's put it this way: their quantum computer can like, normally it'd take billions of years to hack a triple A 256-bit AES encrypted hardware software, the passcode, a password on it. It'd take billions of years normally. Well, with a quantum computer, if it was working, theoretically, you could do it in hours. So if I was the government, mate, I'd be double check, whether I'd be Democrat, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, whoever. I'd be going and checking that out real quick to make sure, like, enemies like China and that don't get their hands on it. They should stop. If that technology ever comes out, then that's worse than nuclear weapons, because then they could make real AI, you know, artificial, you know, soldiers, AI soldiers and stuff. It'd be, oh, I hope you're right, John. I pray you are.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. There's who knows, the world might be coming to an end, so we'll see what happens. As a sidebar,
Let's
folks,
hope so.
I finally got around to doing this. People give me grief about it, tell me I need to do it, so I finally did, and had some fun with it, and decided to come up with some entertaining stuff. So, anyone check this stuff out? It's pretty fun. I'll post a link. You know how everybody's running around like the atheists are always being like a proud atheist, or, you know, they wear all these shirts about how they're atheists. Well, I thought it'd be funny to do one. So you want to be a proud creationist?
Great.
There
That's a
you
good
go.
idea.
I thought it'd be pretty funny. This one did it as a conversation starter. So it's DNA equals medium, gene equals code, source equals God. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And part of the logic behind that was all of the DNA is not a code; it's deoxyribonucleic acid, and it's like, yeah, bro, it's the sequences inside the DNA. It's just the medium. So yeah, so unless you're gonna say your flash drive is the code or it contains the code, I mean, I don't tell you, bro. That's kind of where things are at, in my
I
opinion.
noticed Dan
And then
said,
hang on one second. Then
sorry,
everybody will probably like this one. So, well, the atheists
yeah,
won't.
sorry.
The atheists will. So, atheist noun actively ignores the obvious. I got a good chuckle making that up. But anyway, sorry, what were you saying, Jason?
Yeah. I can't remember. It's not important, obviously, but I can't remember. It's not important.
You were saying something about Dan.
Oh yeah, Dan said. Oh, that's right. He said this is where the way they're going. Obviously, it's typical for evolutionists. He said about it's a DNA language. Like he's trying to define DNA language from human language, and of course it's not the same sort of language, but it's still a language that can be read forwards and backwards, and it's 4-dimensional. You know, all sorts of like it's crazy. They were always trying to see. They didn't want to admit that it's a language, and now nature is admitted years ago that it's a language, the DNA, the language of the DNA, and they actually talk about it as an actual language. And nature's one of the James Tour says nature is as far as he's concerned, the top science magazine in the world for what it does. So if the top Evo science magazine on the planet, the tippy top echelon one is saying that it's a language and they're saying that it's a code, then it's a bloody language and a code. It's not just yes, it is a DNA language. Yes, it's different from human language. It's far more complex than human language.
As Andrew asked, and I agree with you, Jason. Andrew asked, question about your conversation with Dan. Was he admitting that codes do beg an intelligence except when we see them in biology? Yes. I asked him that multiple times. I mean, because he kept just dancing and dodging around, and well, yes, they do, except in biological systems. So it's a natural one. I'm like, so you're agreeing that it has all the underlying source requirements, except the one that's 100% agreed upon in any other context. Got it. I mean, it's why I just don't even understand what the point is with some of these people. I mean, in what arena does it make any sense that I agree with everything that you're saying except for the conclusion, but I agree with you 99.99% on the conclusion in any other context? I mean, it's like, but so do you or do you not agree with me? And I kind of got to that point with him at one point where I asked him, because it was like, dude, you literally a paragraph ago were on a completely different course, and now you're taking a 180-degree pivot and claiming that you didn't understand the question. So either you don't have a clue what you're talking about, and therefore you shouldn't even be making assertions, and how in the hell are you teaching people, or you're playing a dancing game. And like, Dan was pretty nice overall in the stream. I mean, I think he was playing the ignorant card on more than a few occasions, and trying to be extremely nebulous in his answers because he knew that it was going to be nebulous, and just to play I agree with you. I kind of anticipated the I agree with you portion. That's why I kept trying to drill him down on, so is it code or not code? Like, which one? Well, I guess it's code. Like, I mean, so the requirements do exist or they don't? Which one? Well, it's different for biology. Well, how did it evolve? Well, it just did. I believe in, frozen accident. I mean, to be honest, as a sidebar, folks, if you are going to say, ultimately, I think it was a, completely frozen accident, it's not remotely plausible in any other context, but I'm going to go with frozen accident. If that's your explanation, and I'm not picking on Dan in general, I'm talking about like Evo atheists and at large. It's like, which one of us is taking a greater leap of faith? you admit that it's implausible. You admit that it's improbable. You admit that it requires some completely unrealistic, random occurrence in order for all this to happen. But I'm the one that's taking a greater leap of faith. I don't understand how you come to that conclusion with any kind of actual critical thinking skills being expressed. It never ceases to blow my mind.
Yeah, and they believe they say that when we say, "Oh, you just say God did it," well, you say nothing did it, and then they say no, but and I'll say, oh, so you saying that some subatomic particle or quantum mechanics fluctuations or whatever that describes how the universe works? You saying that these things were eternal? Because if you the moment they say that the moment they admit that anything at all is eternal, then they have to admit God's plausible. And you notice when I ask them that, they always try to dance around it and get away from it because it's right.
Yeah, there's really no way around it. I mean, I tell you the part that really got me more than anything, and this one is always, I was very fascinated when he actually brought it up because I thought this is one of the weakest positions you could possibly take. This simpler code that didn't have the capacity to do the more robust, complicated functions somehow did the more robust and complicated functions. Like, what? So the thing that can't do what you need it to do is the thing that did what you needed it to do. When you know that what you got now couldn't do what you would need, the thing that can't do what you can do with the other one to get it done. I mean, it's like the mental gymnastics and the mental pretzeling that's required to somehow believe that. I mean, let's just think about that for a second. Let's say you have a motorcycle and you have a hypothetical motorcycle and you have a Ford F350, right? Your F350 is trying to tow a gigantic truck that's stuck in the mud, another truck, trying to tow it out of the mud, and it can't. And then this little dude comes along and be like, bro, my motorcycle could totally pull that out of the mud. You'd be looking at him like, hang on, so I can't pull this truck out of the mud with my F350. And you're telling me that in some hypothetical universe, your motorcycle could pull the truck out of the mud. I'm sure you guys follow my logic here. Like, do you not understand what you're saying, man? Like, this is what's being argued with a straight face as some kind of like intellectual hypothetical. Like, no, this is actually a plausible thing that we should truly consider and see, like how this could happen, and come up with some weird, abstract, completely hypothetical, completely unprovable, completely untestable, other than in like your own mind, and then claim that somebody's like calls you out on like what's apparent, like I just did in the context of the dude who pulls up says his motorcycle could do it. I mean, you would look at that guy and be like, "You're a moron." Yeah, and he's like, "Dude, I have a PhD." I mean, like, congratulations. Go shove it where the sun don't shine, because it means nothing, and I do not respect any premise that comes out of your mouth as any kind of remotely coherent or substantive suggestion. I mean, you're a moron at that point. And same thing. It just some of this stuff, I tell you what, this past year, getting on, dealing with all these people on YouTube and such, has been extraordinarily fascinating on so many different levels. I'm just like, what is happening with the world for any of this stuff to actually be being taken seriously? And the fact that these things are actually being taught in our education systems as proven fact never ceases to amaze me. Like, oh, our evolutionary algorithms don't work except in this little scenario, and then we run into a wall. Oh, well, that wall only applies in this little pocket. It wouldn't apply if we put it in another spot. Okay, so you're running a similar scenario in a different pocket who also runs into the same barrier. Oh yeah, but if we put this one in the other one, then the barrier wouldn't exist in the other pocket. So all of your scenarios all run into massive barriers, and you're claiming the barrier isn't actually there if you weren't the one standing in front of it. Yeah. Right. I mean, let's put this in another context. So you've got a 5-foot guy, a 6-foot guy, and a 7-foot guy. And the 7-foot guy is standing in front of a 20-foot wall. The 6-foot guy is in front of an 8-foot wall, and the 5-foot guy is in front of a 7.5-foot wall. Each one of them is like, man, if I was in the other guy's room, I could totally get over this wall. I mean, like,
yeah.
Oh, so none of you can get over the wall, but you're claiming if you were in a different room with a shorter wall, then you could. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Just quickly, I'm sorry to cut you off and thing. I just want to say I'm sorry to the guy that I was live with last time I was on your show. It's just that like my memory's going to get better as I get healthier. I am. I mean, I know I've been off the grog like most alcoholics. They always say they're off it, and then 2 weeks later they're back on it. But this time I've got a different interest. I've got the exercise bug, and I'm going crazy because I can only exercise a certain amount. Then I have to wait 4 days to heal, and then start again. You know. But what was I saying? I can't even remember. See? Oh, that's right. And my memory cuts out. Once I get a thought in my head, I have to really work to hold on to it sometimes. And I cut people off, and I know it really pisses people off because people do it to me, and then I get the shits, and then I think, hang on a second, I did that to, so I'm sorry to him for doing that to him, and you as well, and lots of times I've done it over the time. I've got to learn just to let it go. Is when I can't remember something, I've just got to I'm teaching myself just let it go, Jason. Don't worry about it. It's if it's important, it'll come back. If it that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, it's no worries, man. It happens. Plus, there's lag time. It's all good, man. We're good. Tony, welcome to the stream, brother. How you doing?
What's up? Good, man. Yeah, great series by Dr. Tor. Excellent.
Yeah, it's epic. I'm looking forward to his next full lecture. I mean, tonight's little summary was good, and I guess is it Tuesday? The next one? I think it's Tuesday.
Yeah. I like that. I think it was episode 7 when he was talking about the synthesizing machine. Each capsule had to be vacuum sealed. All the impurities were removed, and I don't know. That's supposed to happen naturally somewhere,
Yeah, that whole deal with the awesome nightmare. Thank you for. I'm glad the popping stopped. I have no idea what the heck that was. That's very annoying. Anyway,
could be a million things.
Yeah, the synthesized machine for the synthesizing strands and such. Very, very interesting. Right. And as I was mentioning earlier, I mean, Dr. Tour going through all the different steps of here's why it's complicated, and they're using pre-purified chemicals. And prepackaged and in a pristine lab environment.
Right.
And they still have to do all of these additional steps that aren't natural in order to execute this this next portion of the process they're trying to pull off. It's such a I'm really having a hard time taking
it's incredible. And people like Dan tonight, even Dan tonight, just in denial about code.
Well, I mean, it's not only just the code, which is the problem. Like, the code is one portion of it, but the other piece that he and I kind of danced around about for a while on the adapter mechanism that's necessary for the translation of the code to occur. It's like, dude, you have to have a 3-dimensional object with the appropriate charges in the right spots in order to assign the codon values. Like,
yeah, I don't.
It's 100%. It's 100% arbitrary. It is arbitrary. Like, it's been studied to be arbitrary, and like I don't know if you guys, if people are watching, were paying attention, but in one of those papers that I was reading from, they literally delineate how there has been experimentation for 30 years that's come to the culmination wherein it is the now accepted position that the like the chemical affinities and all these different things, physics and chemistry do not account for the codon value assignments. Period. And I mean, I had in the citation of that paper, there was like 7 different papers with all of that point, starting back in like the like late 80s, going all the way up until like 2 years ago. And they've all, it's like their physical, chemical determinism does not account for this, period.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then you're either just going to be like clinging in desperation to, oh, well, there must be some other affinity, even though we've like accounted for all this stuff. And then we just keep finding new reasons for there not to be affinities. And then you got things like that other paper I was reading from on the triplet of the triplet. And it's like, oh, hey, guys, so kind of turns out that the codons in proximity to the one being read have influence on the transcription or the translation process. Like the last sentence that I read from that paper was basically, I have to paraphrase here, but it was, this puts a whole new level of question in relation to what point mutation means in relation to human disease. So it's like, hey, you freaking idiots. Not only can that point mutation jack up an individual codon, it can also be jacking up the codons around it that didn't quote unquote mutate. Does this not compute as to what is happening here?
Dave had a go ahead, man.
Yeah, enough of my tangent. It blows.
Dave was on with Aaron Ra earlier. What a joke that was.
Oh yeah, man, I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch that straight after this.
Well, they actually
tuned in for a couple.
Sorry,
and I couldn't take it. It was a clown show.
They were talking about microenvironments too.
I'll be
thousands of microenvironments will somehow make abiogenesis plausible. But yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's what they reckon. They reckon that there's it's not just one spot on one side of the earth. This thing was made in another spot on the other side of the earth.
Yeah.
There was a big soup of all these different proteins all mixing. Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
It's like, but not one chemist under prebiotic conditions can go and make the building blocks with prebiotic conditions. They can't do it. They have to buy all the building blocks, all of them. That, like, what they do is they take this stuff, they break it down into its individual parts from a once living flesh, and then they sell it. They sell it to the scientists. Then they put it into this really complex, super complicated machine that strings DNA together and makes DNA sequences, any sequence you want, and proteins and so on and so forth, right? But they're taking all of this stuff, except for sometimes they might use 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 10 or 20 or 30 that's synthetically produced in the lab, but they're taking all this stuff from nature, and these machines are hooking it together, and then they say, wow, look what we created. We created DNA. It's like, it's so embarrassing. It's embarrassing to see fellow human beings. Oh, anyway,
one of the funniest things so far from Dr. Tour's videos was, I think it was either not the one tonight, but I think it was the one before, where he talks about, he's like, my fellow chemists, I know you probably just fell out of your chair because I almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah.
He's like, but when he was delineating out like the reading through, when he was reading through,
he said, sorry, John, just quickly, just sorry to cut you off. I know I do it, but he said that he already laughed so much and fell out of his chair so much that by now, when I'm doing this video, that I don't feel like falling out of my chair now because I've already done it many times.
Yeah, it's getting bad. When he was like reading through the process of one of the experiments, whatever, and he's like, we did the initial chemical reaction at 76 degree, whatever it was. And he's like, then we extracted and then placed in a negative 112 degrees confinement or whatever. It's like, hold on. You went from 70 degrees to negative 112? And that's what you had to have to maintain the stability of your deal until it was time for your next step, where it's like, then we returned it to pH 7, and at temperature XYZ, we're able to, initiate next step in the process. Then return to a negative 112. It's like, he's like, so it was in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and then it hopped on a plane and went to Antarctica, and then was on another return flight back for the next day to be in XYZ desert for the next stage in the process. And in the interim, somehow the penguins like washed out all of the the chemicals. It's like, he didn't say it. I'm making that up, but I'm paraphrasing kind of what he was talking about, of like, yeah, in your little micro environment, one day it's 200 degrees, the next day it's negative 112. I'm just going to go out in a limb and say bovine scatology, number one. And number two, in what world, in what universe is that a remotely plausible scenario? 100 degrees one day, negative 100 the next? But where?
Yeah.
Where is that going to happen? It doesn't exist. So it doesn't matter if you can pull off a chemical reaction in that scenario. That's why it's called synthetic chemistry, you idiots. It blows the mind.
Oh, you know what it did? It got jettisoned out into space and high enough in the atmosphere where it was that cold by a volcano or something. And then it somehow it stayed on the rock and it didn't burn up on re-entry as it came back down and wasn't destroyed when it, hit the earth again or something. It's like there's no way around it for them. What you just said, it's impossible.
No, it still happened. Still happened. And their other argument of, well, we don't have to show it in the lab because we don't have to show a volcano in a laboratory. It's like, wow.
What's up, Danny? How are you doing? Have you recovered from your latest speed of sound beating?
Yeah, pretty much. It seems to dying. It might die down. I think people are getting tired of it, including Speed. So I think the main issue is mostly John Peterson, and Speed him can't help himself but defend him, which is just, why would you ever want to die on that hill?
Yeah, it is a clown show. Although I have to give Speed some credit. His channel has gotten so ridiculous that it's actually worth entertainment value now. It has actually real comedic entertainment to go. Like, tune in, very small doses. If I see you in there, I'll stick around for like 10 minutes and be like, guaranteed dumpster fire. It's like, will Danny get put backstage in less, over under 10 minutes of tune in? It's
like 25 times every time I participate in the stream that he puts me backstage.
Well, what's truly fascinating about that is one of them is usually yelling at you, and they put you in backstage while they're yelling at you. And I'm like, there was one yesterday or day before, I forget now. The John Peterson was going off on you, and then he puts you backstage. I'm like, what? And then he's like, John, okay, you need to let Danny respond. I'm like, that means you should have put John Peterson in the backstage and let Danny respond, and then brought JP back in. You don't kick out the guy who's the one getting yelled at to tell the other guy to let the other guy talk. I mean, it's like, in what universe does this make sense? But in fairness, we are talking about a strict materialist Buddhist, so take that for what you will.
They are friends too, and that might play a lot into it. But I think that no one should be friends with John Peterson. I think he should be dropped and ostracized from the community. I think Speed should definitely drop him. He doesn't contribute very much. He's abusive, abrasive. He doesn't do any work to research anything or like I mean, there are people that try hard to like look into the issues, and he just thinks he can just make it up and wing it as he goes. So he does no justice to any of the topics. He is absolutely worthless. And as a person, right? He's a bad person, and as an intellectual, right? He's done no work to progress intellectually. Why then is he platformed?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
yeah.
against it.
If he doesn't do research, that's fine. Being abrasive and everything, that's fine. But as long as he does the research. But he as soon as you said he doesn't do the research, he lost.
You see, Speed of Sound.
He lost me.
Speed of Sound tries to to understand these things. Now, there's a whole. I mean, that's much more than what John tries to do.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's just like I'm abrasive. I'm rude. I'm get drunk and all sorts of things. But at least I work hard researching things, and I do read both sides. That's why we got it all over them, because we really research their side as well. We read their citations. We go in and we really look at everything. They don't. And that's why they get trampled on. You think that they would have learnt by now and just get right into our stuff and get it down pat so when they're arguing with us, but they don't.
But you know what's funny is that how you know it's getting bad is like half of the regulars of Speed Stream are now turning against Speed. I don't know if you noticed that, John.
No,
Like John, Jerry Penna, even Leo to some extent. There are a couple others in the chat that are just saying this looks bad, and then you have the other half that kind of support what Speed or John are saying unconditionally, like Midnight. For some reason, I don't know why that poor guy is under their spell.
You said Midnight?
Yeah, like they just blindly follows Speed and John and anyone else who's being abrasive towards me just because maybe I don't really know why. I guess he doesn't like me.
Yeah, he just doesn't like God, creationist, God hater.
What was pretty funny was them going off on you about how your girlfriend wasn't real.
I know, and there's stuff like that.
That was pretty funny. So prior to this, I was cracking up because I have witnessed his girlfriend like come into the room and such in previous streams and like talk and whatnot. Anyway, this clown show group where they were folks, it was pretty entertaining. They were going off on like, no, she's Canadian and like all sorts of stuff, like it doesn't exist, Danny's imaginary girlfriend, she's from all this kind of stuff. And then like he hops on and his girlfriend's like literally sitting next to him. And he's like, hey, what's up, guys? And then like, oh, and then I forget who it was. One of them started being like, oh, we've got a girl in the room. And it was like complete paradigm shift and was like, it's like, yeah, bro, we can all tell that you have not talked to a woman in quite some time. We got it. Like, yep. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, oh, we got to talk to a girl. And you have no idea what you're doing. It was rather entertaining.
Sometimes when my girlfriend and I are doing something and then she has to do something, or I feel like, doing my own thing, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go I'm going to go bully some old men, right? Being John Peterson and Speed. And she always chuckles, but, yeah, I'm abusing, old men on the internet, it seems. Because really, who else do I have a problem with? I mean, Midnight is just under their spell. I don't really hold them responsible. But who else do I actually have, like on that side of the aisle? Do I have like a serious issue with?
Okay, listen. All I have to say is, and I think you were mentioning this the other day, when Leo Filius is relatively nice to you compared to the rest of that group, there's a problem because Leo is not nice to like the vast majority of people. So the fact that he's quasi nice to you, or at least that's your perception of him in proximity and in relation to the other guys, that speaks volumes as to what the other guys over there are doing.
He might have the
Interesting
hots for
dynamic.
you, Denny.
What was that, Jason?
He might have the hots for you. That's why he's nicer to you than everybody
dear.
else. Who knows? I don't know. You never know.
Well, I'm just gonna go.
So many times yeah.
Listen, I'm gonna go out
Anyway.
on a limb and be like, I would wager it's a reasonable bet that there is at least one in that group who, when Danny said, "I go both ways," got very excited. I'm just gonna say.
Oh man. Let's keep it PG, right? This is a good Christian stream.
Hey man, it's after midnight, bro.
Yeah, I'm not saying any. All I said was it's hot, so I'm not going to elaborate. No way, I wouldn't do that. That'd be disgusting.
I'm just joking.
No, I'm giving Danny a hard time.
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough.
No, he knows. I have conversations. Godzilla Freak says, facts. It's kind of sad when Leo is the calmest member of the group. Yes, I agree.
Leo's been very, very calm and level-headed, and but what's interesting is we had a conversation, the Saturday Night Atheist stream, and John Peterson wasn't there. Everyone else was there, including Speed, and it was a cordial conversation throughout for hours. Right, I talked to Speed, Brainbug, Immutable, Leo. Nothing and zero animosity. I think what's happening, I hope Speed would recognize that John Peterson is poison, absolute poison.
I would agree with you on that completely. I mean, as much as I found his streams extraordinarily boring before John Peterson, they at least weren't like the same level of abrasiveness. Now it's just full scale dumpster fire the whole time, rather than just a bunch of losers talking.
Now what's really interesting?
Now it's a dumpster fire. It's a dumpster fire of mostly losers who are like needing a bunch of self-aggrandizement and self-validation.
You know what Speed's comment was on the video where he not only put me in backstage, but John Peterson erupted, shouted a bunch of obscenities. He said that I was like mini Darth Dawkins in that video. I just was so puzzled because I didn't mute anyone. I wasn't yelling, right? Not to the extent that like John was, right? I don't think I even uttered an obscenity. I didn't curse at all. And yet somehow in a desperate response, Speed calls me mini Darth. I don't understand. I didn't understand. I really was so confused.
It's entirely possible that was actually a compliment.
You're this one guy, aren't you? I can tell from your voice. Yeah, I thought so.
I'm one person.
I can tell from your voice. Like you can't. I'm good with voices. Once I get someone's voice in my head, I could hear your voice when you're 80, 40 years, 50 years, or 60, whatever years it is from now, and I'd pick it like that. I'm good with sounds. I should have worked on submarines. I should have.
Hang on, you think that Danny is that one guy?
Oh, I thought he was. It sounds like it.
Oh, what is he? I misunderstood you, Jason. I guess.
Danny,
oh no! I thought you sound like that one guy. Oh, is
that
he?
one guy?
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah. I don't know. This one guy. Oh, okay. All right.
No, he's talking about
no. He's
your voice is.
Oh. Okay,
yeah, but your voice is very very similar. Very, very similar.
I thought he literally was saying you're like that one guy, and I didn't know exactly what he was referring to.
Oh yeah, no, that's fair enough. No. I probably did say that. I was just mincing my words or stuffing my words up. That I meant to say that you are that one guy. This one guy. Yeah, no, Tog. Okay, so that's Tog. All right.
It's impossible.
You do sound like him.
Of some of the. Nah, I mean maybe a little bit of. A little bit in the voice. I don't know, but in terms of like the actual substance of the things they say, not even close. So
yeah.
I would have never put them in the same stratosphere voice wise because. I mean, there's no substance. There's very small amount of substance that comes out of Togg's mouth. I mean, that
that's right.
that whole deal that happened with him a couple of weeks ago, with the whole like copyright claim strike he did, and I mean, it was like,
What?
oh yeah, I'm not even going to talk about it. It was like a whole dumpster fire, but yeah, they got it. Like he did a copyright claim on somebody for doing a clip of a stream that he and the other person were both in, and he did a copyright claim. It's like, dude, it's me talking to you. Like, I copyright claim. Like,
Yeah.
how is it a copyright claim if I snip a comment or a clip of myself talking to you?
That's crazy.
Retarded.
Yeah, I know. No, it actually is. I discovered because I contacted the place. Well, I can't remember where it is now. Where Dr. Lyle, was it Dr. Lyle? Oh, anyway, it was one of them, and I contacted them and I said, Jason Lyle, yeah, I think it was. And I contacted him. I said, well, I've got this video and I've written out word for word the whole video of what he did in that video. They said that doesn't belong to Jason or us. That belongs to the channel where he went and spoke. And I went, what? I said, hang on a second, but that's him. That's his image and his voice and everything. Yes, but they created it. They had it paid him or asked him or whatever it was to come over there, that they created it on their channel, even though it's you talking. You can't. That's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous.
Well, I agree if you're doing just a clip and play, but if you are clipping, and this is what happened in the context of him filing the copyright strike, it was a clip, but then there was like commentary before and after.
Oh, they can't do a thing.
Well, can't, and doing so and then requiring you to jump through hoops to get something removed is two different.
Yeah.
Completely different scenario. But like that, the whole thing. Anyway, they did a conversation. It's like, well, I didn't know it was going to be that big of a deal. It's like, so you went through all the steps to do a in-person copyright strike against somebody, but you didn't know that it was a big deal. So either you have the IQ of a gerbil, or you're an idiot, or you're a liar. Which one is it? Or some hybrid of
gerbil.
I mean,
I'm going gerbil.
It's getting very sad. In that context, that concept I'm talking about right there, I feel like it's the same thing in whether a lot of stuff that I argue on the philosophy side. Same thing. It's like the vast majority of people, whether they're pro or for or against, theist, atheist, whatever, the vast majority of people on YouTube anyway, inside chats. Let me get this even more delineated. The idiots inside chat and in comment, actually even more so in like comments, they don't even know what the heck they're talking about. They're literally doing a copy and paste of something they do not understand for themselves. It's truly fascinating. Like right before the Aaron Raw wannabe Dave stream earlier, I was talking some trash inside chat to some idiots, and this one guy kept spewing the long curved, I always forget the name of it, nerve in the neck, in the drafts and all that stuff. Oh, clear example, bad design. And it's like, oh, there's backward stuff in the human eye versus the octopus. Therefore, no design, right? Evolution true, talking point. And it's like, yeah, so kind of known for a while on that whole eye thing. The way it's actually wired keeps your eyeballs from burning up. You freaking idiots.
That's right.
Quick side.
And where does an octopus live? It always lives on the bottom, doesn't it? It never lives, rarely comes up to the surface. It's always on the bottom, so it's protected from ultraviolet radiation. And our eyes aren't.
Many things, absolutely. But to me, when you think about the human eye as an example, it's like, oh, it's so badly designed. Really? Well, I suggest, ladies and gentlemen, that you use the amazing tool of Google. Whether or not it's the end of the world or not, who knows? But use Google and just go to a search query that says, how many megapixels does the human eye process, right? The most recent estimate is 576 megapixels. Guess what the best human-made video camera of all time is right now? Oh,
what was that? I missed
the,
it.
The best human-made camera currently can do about 50. It's 50.4 megapixels. Okay.
Yep.
The human eye is This is the estimate. 576 megapixels of the human eye. 576 megapixels. Best video camera by humans, 50. 50.
Yeah.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's contemplate that for uno momento. If the human eye is so horribly designed, then what is the best camera ever made by humans then? Because by that comparison, it's garbage. It's a piece of trash. Why would anybody buy it? I have no idea why you would ever buy this. Oh, wait. Yet we do. Anyway, that I just find it truly fascinating, the level of ignorance to spew those kinds of talking points and then not ever actually, obviously, have never gone and actually looked up for yourself. Because there's no way, shape, form, or fashion, if I knew the data that I know in terms of what I'm relaying to the audience right now, there's no way that I would claim that the eye was a piece of crap if I knew that it's vastly superior to the best camera we've ever made. I mean, oh, and by the way, folks, reasonable that you're going to be able to use it for a really long time. How's that camera doing on your last smartphone? I'm just saying. Something to
yeah.
Something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and then you get down into like stuff like the like there's been experiments that suggest, they haven't been able to prove it yet, but they suggest that the human eye is able to detect a single photon. A single photon. Yeah, if that's not optimized if that's true, then the human eye is optimized to the literal extreme. We're getting some wind feedback, Jason.
Color. God loves colors. We weren't meant to see at night like lions because they haven't got the same sort of color the vision as us. God loves color. I mean, everybody that's died and gone to heaven and come back has said heaven's just bursting with colors everywhere. Everything's just beautiful and colorful. So that's why God gave us the eyes that He did.
Well, in line with that, one of the things that people don't seem to think about is there's all sorts of colors that we can't currently observe. Like, our eyes don't have the capacity to process a lot of the different, additional layers of color. So it's like, what are we going to be observing?
Yeah.
What do you have the capacity? Because currently we have some limiters put on us in terms of what we're able to. Like, it's not like the colors aren't
That's
there.
funny.
It's like, just think about the fact, like right now, dogs and other cats and stuff can see in much better in light. Some of them, different animals can see infrared, right? So if they can see infrared, then it means it's possible. So what if you had the capacity to say, like, consciously turn on or turn off the infrared reading and like sight capacity of your eyeball? That would be dope. Just saying.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, I'd love that.
If
they ever come out with a genetic mod that you could genetically modify yourself to do that, and I was an old man, I think I'll stuff it. I'm old anyway. I'm going to go do this.
Yeah, it'd be very cool. But I mean, and that's the thing that cracks me up when a lot of stuff I read nowadays is on the thing, like different technologies that we're trying to program into bacteria and stuff right now. And I'm just like, so number one, this is very cool, what we're trying to pull off. But number two, the complexity that's required, recognized, like the number of circuits and all that different stuff that having to be created in order to execute basic, extraordinarily basic functions, right? That we can control and all that stuff. It's so complicated to pull off, right? And we've got idiots running around claiming that it all just happened. Nope, I can't explain it. I've got no idea. Yeah, it seems really strange. It's definitely an outlier. in no other context would this make sense. Yes, I'm going to go with a frozen accident, and I agree it wouldn't be plausible in any other scenario, but life exists, therefore it must happen the way I think it happened. What? Like, so in relation to what we're trying to program, it's really hard, and we know what we want to do. You claim that there was no purpose, and you're going to do everything in your power to avoid there being any kind of agent that's required. But agents that are trying to do something on purpose and failing miserably, that doesn't tell you anything. I mean, I honestly, I'm really having a hard time this past month. I've been having a hard time taking academics seriously in relation to a lot of the, and not just stuff in relation to, abiogenesis and such, other papers and stuff that I'm reading on different topics. And I'm like, your little exposition about evolution in this context has absolutely zero relevance. Zero. None. Not any. It is pointless. It is worthless. It's a waste of space on the paper to be doing this little, expose on how it all evolved. And then it's like, you have absolutely no idea how that happened. None whatsoever. You don't even understand, per your own words in the paper, you don't understand 90% of how it works. But you're telling me you know how it evolved when you don't even know how it works. There's components, you don't even know what the structure of the component is, but you're like, it evolved. It must have.
Yeah.
Case in point, transcription factors, for example.
Yeah.
There's a whole chunk of the transcription factory that's required, like proteins, and the transcription complex, that we don't know what it is. They haven't been able to sequence it. They haven't been able to structure it. And even with all the latest and greatest technology, they still haven't been able to figure out what the heck it is. They know what something is there. They don't know what. And they don't know how. They don't know what functions it does. But then, on the flip side, we have people telling us that all of this stuff just happened. I mean, it'd be let's think about this for a second. It'd be like saying, all right, I am looking at a car, but I've never been able to open the hood, but I know how it works. And you're like, so do you know, is it an internal combustion engine or a hybrid or a all-electric vehicle? I have no idea, but I know how it works. So you've never worked on one? No. Have you ever opened the hood of one? No. Have you been able to look at a schematic of one? No. Have you looked at the owner's manual? No. But you know how to fix it. You know how it all works. Yes, 100%. I mean, you would look at that person and be like, right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hire you to work on my car because what you just said, that's nuts. I'm out. And anyway.
Yeah. James Tour makes the building blocks. James Tour is the type of person who makes the building blocks to give to the biologists. Separates out the building blocks from biological material to give to the biologists so they can try to put it together to claim that they made, he's that sort of person. And yet he doesn't know anything about biology that guy was saying. What an idiot.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting that Danny Boy, or not Danny Boy, man, I've got multiple Dannys on the mind. Wannabe Dave. I find it interesting that he decided to do a damage control interview with Aaron Raw, scheduled for the exact same time as Dr. Tour's video. That is way too coincidental for that just to happen to be scheduled right there. I guarantee you that Aaron Raw and Wannabe Dave wanted to try and play damage control. And more importantly than that, I can only imagine what Wannabe Dave is thinking of just, number one, he's getting annihilated. And number two, he has caused Dr. Tour to be going after other chemists, like actually the credentialed ones. So it's like, kind of like Dr. George being like, look, bro, I'm not even going to annihilate you. That took me like 10 seconds because you're an idiot. I'm gonna go debunk my peers who are making these claims. And like the fact that he utterly destroyed Sutherland's paper. Destroyed it. Yeah, 2 streams ago, I think it was. And Sutherland is a very, very well-respected chemist. And he absolutely annihilated his paper. So if one of the leading synthetic chemists on the chemists on the planet that's doing origin of life research, if Dr. Tour was able to just completely eviscerate his paper, what does that say about the guys who are not of his caliber?
Yeah, and he's reading through stuff. Oh, that's what I was going to say. It really annoys me that the way they bury everything in really complex scientific jargon and abbreviations and stuff like that. But for an average person that's not James Tour to go through that, you'd have to be constantly Googling, what's this, what's that, what's that. It'd take you about 50 times longer to go through it than it takes him. And even he said it's difficult for him sometimes to go through these things. And he showed a picture of the notes of one of the just one little section of one citation he was working on. And he said, these are all the notes that I put on. There was heaps of notes all over it. Like, man, if someone like him has trouble reading that stuff, but what I mean is not trouble, like he knows what it is because he reads it out in front of us. He reads everything out. He explains it in detail. And anybody, that the one guy was sitting there, I was arguing with an atheist, I still am, on his channel, and they said, oh, James Tour made 19 different mistakes in the thing. And in this video, I noticed it was very interesting that James Tour said, I don't want you to point out when I say nucleotide or nucleoside or get that mixed up or something like that. That's not important. That's just a little thing. But I want you to point out when I do something, say something that's synthetic. Any synthetic chemists see that I've said something wrong, that I need them to contact me so I can learn and contact me with a citation or something as well. So I can learn because I want to learn. He says stuff like that. Anyway, you know where I'm going. I'll shut up now.
Well, he also is talking about, when he's like reading through some of these papers, it's like somebody of his caliber, he reads through the processes that you're talking about in some of the notes, and it's like he's seeing like gigantic red flags of like, wait a minute, that chemical reaction isn't plausible. And then he'll go look at it in more detail and be like, they're admitting it's not plausible. Like, oh, well, we didn't actually do it. We just operated from the perspective that must be what happened, and then we're going to start from the next step. Like, whoa, hang on. So you've like mapped out this whole step-by-step process that would be required to get to X point. You didn't do any of the first 7 steps, and you just started at number 8, and then be like, well, since number 8 was accomplished, then it seems like we could go down this pathway or that pathway. Okay, so I'm not really following you here. Like, that's not actually a real. You haven't done anything. You literally skipped the first 7 steps. I mean, in any other context, you'd be laughed out of the room. Abiogenesis, totally plausible.
Yeah, like 112 degrees and what was it? 112 below and what? It's some 112 below and like 30 degrees or 40 degrees or 50 degrees Fahrenheit 1 minute, 1 day, and 112 below like in the next hour sort of thing. And yeah, that's funny. That's impossible. How did that happen on the prebiotic Earth? Impossible.
It's not plausible. Danny boy, I'm getting tired. I'm gonna have to wrap this up here in a few minutes. You were being very quiet.
Yeah, man.
Open your mouth.
Oh, I'm tired myself. So.
Are you staying up past your bedtime again? I know you're in Central.
Yeah,
I know you're in Central time,
do.
so you have no excuse.
I always do.
17:31 here. Oh, just turned 32.
Oh, you're kind of young.
No, he was talking about the time.
Oh no, yeah, no, it's 1731, 5:31 p.m. I just say 1731 because I use 24-hour time because it's easier. It's just easier. I used to make mistakes all the time when I was really young, like setting alarm clocks for school or whatever, because I'd put PM when it was meant to be AM and stuff like that. You can't make that mistake with 24-hour time. You got no excuses. So that's why I like 24-hour time.
Yeah.
You can never make a
It
mistake.
makes more sense, honestly.
This may be one of the dumbest things I've read all day.
Yeah,
Iron
go on.
Charioteer
This will
is
be interesting.
suggesting that the Japanese and Chinese got the idea of killing baby girls at birth from Christianity.
Oh my lord!
Yeah,
where did they get this stuff
I'm just going
from?
to go out on a limb and be like, yeah, false. And if you're referring to that in relation to the modern times, bro, that was initiated under the communists. So
yeah, man.
And I'm pretty sure they were hardcore atheist communists.
Yeah, they were. One communist
policy, the one-child policy, which resulted in the execution of
Yeah.
I mean, it's returned to the like the days of Rome, and they would like take defective kids and stick them on the mountainside to be eaten by wolves and such. I mean, yeah. It's amazing.
One communist torturer is like it's quoted to. I mean, he said that thank God in whom I don't believe. That I've come to this point where I can fulfill my bloodlust and basically so I can torture people and experiment on doing evil, sadistic things to people. And he just so do you think that's a Christian? He's they're admitting it that like the communists believe that we're just a bunch of random chemicals and that we're worth like $13-14 or something worth of random chemicals in our body or whatever.
Hey Danny, so George or Jason, you'll find this funny too. But Danny, since you interact with him more often, well, first off, did you witness any of the dumpster fire that was my debate with Leo? And
when was that? Oh, I did. I watched about an hour of it or so.
Okay. Did you make it to the portion where we were arguing over Karl Marx and Thomas More?
No, I did not see that, but I heard about that interaction.
Okay, so would you argue that is there any context in which you think that Thomas More's Utopia was written after Karl Marx's Das Kapital?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted. I wasn't muted. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm an ignoramus, so I didn't.
No, you're not, man. You're just tired.
No, I didn't know who that was when it was mentioned in the debate.
Tired,
so, apparently, I'm sorry. I didn't. I wouldn't be able to comment.
Okay. Let me see. You have strong deductive powers. The gentleman in question who wrote the book Utopia actually coined the term utopia. Do you think he existed before or after Karl Marx?
Well, it seems like utopia is definitely before Marx. The notion of utopia probably was before Marx.
Yes. 1516 was the publication of Thomas More's Utopia.
Oh, wow.
Marx is rather recent.
Yes, well, Marx is 1818, I believe, was the
he was alive when Darwin was alive.
Of Das Kapital. So it's like, anyway, the point I'm making is, where I'm going with all this, is Leo Filius, in no uncertain terms, strongly argued that we didn't know what we were talking about because all of that was after Karl Marx. And that Karl Marx was the founder of all this kind of stuff. And therefore, we just needed to accept everything that Karl Marx had to say. And I'm just like, I mean, from like a philosophical perspective, it would be like saying that, no, Hume was before Socrates. You don't know what you're talking about. Hume was before Socrates.
Yeah, if someone in philosophy said that, I would be very surprised.
You are a moron. Like I cannot believe you're actually arguing this while simultaneously telling you, in this context, me, that I didn't know what I was talking about in relation to socialism. And I'm like, uh, okay, I don't know how to take you seriously anymore. And that's, I mean, from the beginning of the debate, you're sitting here telling me and CJ that we don't have no idea what we're talking about, and we just are uninformed. And it's like, bro, you're arguing over communes. Like, you want communes. The part that got me more than anything about that whole that dumpster fire, and those idiots are still doubling down on this comments. It's fascinating to me. They're trying to claim that there is no statist control or government control of the economy in a socialist country, a socialist government. I'm like, but by definition, that's what it is. Like, by definition, the government owns the means of production.
That.
By
Yeah, I
definition,
thought it was something like that.
it owns the means of production. No, not in our little hypothetical, like only on our communes, man. Like, what is happening right now? This is actually being argued as this is actually being stated as a.
Sorry.
It's a.
What was the topic of the debate exactly? Like, what was the MDD question?
It was socialism versus capitalism, and the socialist idiots were claiming like that the government does, like, if the government owns the means of production, then that's statism, not socialism. And I'm like, yeah, that's one of the reasons that people don't want socialism, is because it becomes state control. Like, yes, you can argue semantics of statism versus socialism, but in and of itself, socialism by default, the government owns the means of production
is evil
if it's implemented. So if you're, and then they actually extended upon that and kept going down the usual idiotic talking point rabbit hole of communism has never been truly implemented there, so it's not easily failed. And I'm like, am I actually hearing this? I am actually hearing this level of like full scale, naive ideological stupidity coming out from people's mouths. But in the modern era in which we live, and for people who are coming out of people who claim to be doing research, it's like either history has been rewritten, or you're an idiot, or you're a idiot who's reading rewritten history and don't have the functional capacity to actually comprehend the fact that you're being brainwashed. And it blows the mind of what's going on. So since you're a teacher, I got to call you out, man. You guys are screwing up the world.
Yeah, I feel powerless in a lot of those settings. I think we've talked before that like there's a set of political views that if they're vocalized, there's no ramifications, but another set which I take to be benign, in which if you express them, there's like horrible ramifications.
Yeah, there's definitely pretty significant sheep herding that's going on, in my opinion, in the it's what's happening in society of like.
That's right.
I mean, I'm only 36 years old, and I've been on the planet long enough to have seen paradigm shifts, and also I'm now old enough to be when I interact with kids coming out of high school, for example, and I'm like, no, I'm not applying this across the board, but many of them, they have absolutely they've been given no historic context of the paradigm shifts which have occurred within their lifetime or in the years directly preceding their life beginning, and they have absolutely zero knowledge of it. And that whole premise of I don't have to change your mind, I only have to change your sons. I think it's a paraphrase of what Hitler said to I forget who it was, some big dog in the German Reichstag right before taking power. I mean, it was I've already got your kid part of the brown shirts. Like, what are you going to do? And that's not necessarily saying that's happening in the context of like Western civilization, but I mean that in terms of like that kind of group, although Antifa could be that. But from the mindset perspective of just having no context and no like macro view, and then critical thinking skills just being completely eviscerated. I'm like, man.
Yeah, I can see why a lot of people find homeschooling appealing
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many limitations being put on, on teachers for sure. And then, I mean, here's things that I find really fascinating. I would say, no greater than 10% of people who I've asked this question to can tell me whether or not look, most people could not tell me which presidency oversaw the initiation of the Department of Education. Anybody know the answer to that question? No Googling.
You mean came like brought about the?
Yeah, under which presidency did the Department of Education?
I'm gonna guess FDR.
Nope.
1964 or 2 or something.
No,
it was.
It was under Jimmy Carter. And it's like when you think about that, like people think it's been around forever, right? I'm talking about the Federal Bureau of Education, Department of Education, has not been around for nearly as long as people think, and yet the impact that it's had, and when you look at the dramatic modifications that have occurred in such a very short period of time, and like just the removal, it's starting to make a slight comeback now, but like the active removal by the Department of Education of civics education in the public school system is truly astounding. I mean, the levels that has been implemented, and I know different states are starting to kind of bring it back, but when you look at the ability for politicians now to completely brainwash people and, swing them to their ends, and it's like when you listen to all these talking heads and these people making their positions and such, and I'm like, you do realize that insert politician name said the literal opposite in their last term, right? Like, not even like, oh, I changed my mind slightly, or not quite as aggressive, or a little bit less aggressive, or more aggressive, whatever. It's like they were 100% opposed, now they're 100% for, and now anybody who is the opposite of their current position is the most evil human being that ever lived. It's like, so were you the most evil human being that ever lived last year? Because you're on video taking the exact opposite position. So which one is it? I'm not really sure. Are you gambling that nobody's going to YouTube you? Oh yes, absolutely you are. I mean, it's getting nuts. What's happening?
Yeah, it has me worried. It has me stressed.
Well, I'm going to be stressed, but
yeah, but like, I mean, I've really constrained my speech because of being some kind of like, public, like a teacher, that I feel very like I have to be very careful what I say and how I express any of my views.
No, I get that. Yeah, it's especially with your job, you got to just to be got to play it safe. But yeah, I mean, all this stuff, it just gets weird in terms of what do these people actually think. Well, here's the thing. I think a good portion of the pawns that are now in positions of authority, they are that, pawns, and a good portion of them do not have the mental capacity to even comprehend that they're pawns, let alone countermand the blatant acceleration of power grabs that are happening. And case in point, the other day I was having to talk to a bureaucrat, get some paperwork and such. It took me 15 minutes for them to issue disclaimers every time I asked a question. Well, I don't know 100% hypothetically until you have filled out XYZ form. I don't know if I can actually answer that question directly. Okay, and then every question. Well, hypothetically, I guess that might be the case, but I'm not 100%, and I can't say for certain if that is what will happen. It's like, I literally need to know what you need from me to be able so that you can give me X piece of paper. That's it. How many hypotheticals can there possibly be for me to be able to get X piece of paper? Like, this is ridiculous. It took me 20 minutes to get this. I timed myself. And then I drove 20 miles to go get the piece of paper. And guess what? What was printed on it was wrong. So I had to then turn in the request form, and then they emailed it to me the next day. And I'm like, so, number one, you don't have the capacity in your system to allow me to do a modifiable PDF and then like submit it directly into your system, which would make total sense. And that capacity has been around for like a decade. So there's that. So in terms of government efficiency, I got to drive round trip, say 60 miles, to give you a piece of paper that I could have potentially downloaded, filled out, and emailed back to you. And now you can email me the piece of paper that I need. What the flying you know what? Just it's amazing. It's really astounding.
Yeah, I really get that frustration. But I think it is time for me to go. But I appreciate you having me on.
Of course, Danny, you're welcome. Actually, I think I'm going to call it a night too. It is. This one's going 1 hour and 42 minutes. It is almost 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
1 a.m. my time. Yeah.
Oh, is there a summary you want to give me for the video that you had with Dr. Dan?
Oh. Short summary is Dan danced around, duck dived and dodged. Tried to play the very jovial and diplomatic route. Pivoted about 700 times, sometimes in mid-paragraph. Yeah, basically what it boils down to is he agrees that in any other context it's completely implausible for the stuff he needs to have happen, but it must have happened. That's basically the short version.
I thought that. What about the $500?
Oh yeah, I mean I paid it out like I said I would.
Oh yeah, I didn't know anything about. I didn't know if he actually did it or not, or if there was.
Yeah, I mean, he actually at the end he admitted that somebody else helped him, so that was funny. But yeah, I mean they cracked the code and answered the code correctly, and he was the only one that actually submitted anything. Another guy, he emailed me and he pointed out where the sequence was that had the error that I'd put in there on purpose. So obviously he cracked it if he knew what the error was, but he didn't want to come on. He was an atheist, and he didn't want to come on and defend it.
Oh, okay.
which I thought was interesting. I'm like, and because he obviously knew that I was going to grill them on the
next time you say that one of the conditions they have to come on and talk about it to get the money.
Well, no, I did have that condition. That's why the guy that submitted that if he didn't come on, he didn't make any money.
Oh, good.
No, that was one of the conditions. It was pretty funny. So actually, I'm gonna put it up right here real quick before we wrap up. I had Guts at Gibbon and Pudding Brain and a whole bunch of them all talking massive amounts of trash for the last 2 weeks, and I had this. That's the close-up version of it. That's the description of the video where I initiated the challenge. I also had that pinned in the comments and in the post I did in my community. I said, go here to get the details. Okay. So that's the close-up version. So 500 total prize available if multiple winners. Prize split between the winners. Winners must come on a live stream and explain their process of cracking the code, how they determine the alphabet value assignments, and how this process is different than value assignments for nucleotide base pair, codons, and amino acids. And all these conchos were talking all this trash to me because I was not immediately Venmoing Dan the money after he did the submission. And it's and then they said that it was, well, this is just a way for you to avoid paying anybody out. You're just making things up now. But they tried to, they were all making all these comments and saying that I had added the rules after the fact and all this stuff. And it's oh, okay. Been there since the beginning. Don't know what to tell you. You guys will try and rewrite history to fit your own.
Yeah, they do.
Own little whims, and the fact that here's the thing. Other thing too, they were talking all this trash about how it wasn't that big of a deal. I'm like, well, then why didn't any of you other guys like solve it then? I mean, why didn't you come on and try and win? I mean, if I didn't back up my claim, then you would be able to, eviscerate me, in perpetuity. So now what you got? Talk the trash, but anyway. All right, guys, you got any closing words, and we'll wrap up.
Just God bless everyone, and Jesus and Heavenly Father, open everybody's eyes to your truth, love, and light in Jesus' name by the power of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Amen. Danny?
See ya.
Oh, nothing. Thanks for having me on. I'll catch y'all tomorrow, hopefully.
Right on.
See you, Danny.
Y'all get some sleep. All right, everybody, before we wrap things up, as I always like to say, as you contemplate the different fundamental components of your existence, the requirements for you to walk, talk, enjoy life, to learn new things, to comprehend your existence, and ultimately to, hopefully, anyway, come to some semblance of understanding about what your purpose is and how you can influence those around you to greater benefit and ultimately have purpose towards the next stage of your existence. As I always love to say, make sure that the conclusions you reach are logical, plausible, and probable. Y'all have a great night, y'all, and stay safe.
Night.